Try to remember your third birthday. Go on, try. You probably can't. Not really. Maybe a photo comes to mind, or a story someone told you 100 times until it started to feel like a memory. But the actual moment? The candles, the noise, the feeling of being 3 years old and alive in that room? It's gone. You were there, you were conscious. You had a brain that was working. So why does that day not exist for you? The obvious answer is that you were too young to remember. But the real answer is far stranger. Your brain didn't fail to save that day. In many ways, it was too busy building the machine that saves days at all. This gap has a name. Sigmund Freud called it infantile amnesia back in 1899, and he was one of the first people to notice something odd. Adults almost never recall anything from before the age of 3 or 4, even though early childhood is packed with new experiences, new words, new emotional intensity. If memory worked like a video camera, those years should be some of the most vivid footage you own. Instead, they are blank tape. For decades, the easy explanation was that babies simply don't form memories. Their brains are unfinished. Nothing to remember, so nothing to lose. Simple. Except it's wrong. Psychologist Patricia Bauer at Emory University spent years studying how young children actually handle memory, and her research told a very different story. Toddlers do form memories of specific events. Bauer showed that children as young as 16 months could recall a sequence of actions they'd only seen once weeks earlier. Not vague impressions, specific, ordered steps. The memory was there. It was real. So if the memories exist, where do they go? Here's where it gets stranger. Bauer's work also showed that these early memories decay unusually fast compared to memories formed later in childhood. A 2-year-old might remember something for a few months. By the time that same child turns 7 or 8, the memory has usually vanished completely, even with reminders. It isn't that the memory was never made. It's that something in the system seems built to let it dissolve. What could cause that? One answer came from an unexpected place: the brains of baby mice. In 2014, neuroscientist Paul Frankland at the University of Toronto ran a series of experiments looking at neurogenesis, the process by which the brain grows brand new neurons, especially in a region called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is your brain's filing system for memory. It's where experiences get stitched into something you can later retrieve. Here's the twist. In infancy, the hippocampus is producing new neurons at an extremely high rate. That sounds like a good thing. More neurons, more memory power, right? Franklin's research suggested the opposite. His team found that this flood of new brain cells doesn't just add new circuitry. It can overwrite and reorganize the circuits that already exist. In young mice, boosting neurogenesis actually caused existing memories to be forgotten faster. Slowing it down helped memories stick around longer. Translate that to a human infant and you get a strange picture. Your brain, in its first years of life, is under so much construction that it may be quietly demolishing the very structures it just built. Not because the memories don't matter, because the priority for a brain that young is building the architecture, not preserving the archive. But neurogenesis is only half the puzzle. There's a second piece, and it has less to do with biology and more to do with language. Psychologist Carol Peterson at Memorial University of Newfoundland studied children's earliest memories by interviewing the same kids repeatedly over several years. What she found was that a child's earliest memory could shift dramatically depending on how old they were when asked, and depending on how much language they had at the time the event happened. Children who didn't yet have the words for an experience struggled to hold on to it later, even if they clearly remembered it shortly after it occurred. Once a child developed enough language to narrate an experience, that experience became far more stable in memory. Think about what that means. Memory isn't just about storing information. It's about being able to tell yourself a story about what happened. A beginning, a middle, an end. A you who experienced it. Before a child has language, and before a child has a stable sense of self, that story-making machinery isn't fully online. Events happen, sensations register, but without a narrator, there's no story to file away. This is the counterintuitive twist. You didn't lose your baby memories the way you lose your car keys. The memories may have existed briefly, exactly like Bauer's toddlers demonstrated, but they were built without the one tool that makes memories durable in the long run, a self capable of narrating them. Which raises an odd question. Is your earliest memory really your earliest memory? Or is it simply the earliest moment your brain had developed enough of a you to bother writing the story down? Most people's first memory clusters around age 3.5. Not coincidentally, that's roughly when children develop a stable autobiographical sense of self. The internal feeling of being a continuous person moving through time. Before that point, your brain was recording in its own way. It just wasn't recording for an audience. There was no narrator yet to make sense of the footage. Now think about the photographs and home videos that exist of you as an infant. Somebody else's memory of your first steps, your first word, your first birthday. You have external proof these moments happened. And yet, internally, there's nothing there. No feeling, no texture, no sense of having lived it. It can feel almost like watching footage of a stranger who happens to share your name and your face. That disconnect isn't a flaw in you. It's the same disconnect every single human being carries, whether they realize it or not. Your grandmother has it. Your future children will have it. It is one of the only truly universal blank spots in human consciousness. And here's the mirror this casts on your life right now. Every day, your brain is still doing a version of this triage, deciding what gets filed as a real, retrievable memory and what gets quietly dissolved, the way most of your infant years were. You won't remember most of today a decade from now. Not because today isn't happening, but because your brain, even now, is still deciding which experiences deserve to become part of your story and which ones are just scaffolding for something else. So the next time someone asks what your third birthday was like and your mind comes back empty, don't think of it as a gap in your story. Think of it as proof that your brain was too busy building the storyteller to save any pages.